Okay, in this video we'll go over how a fuel injector works and why they fail. So this is a simple fuel injector off a port injection system. So fuel injectors are responsible to spray fuel in each cylinder. So the fuel would be fed from on top here, the hole here, and it would spray from the nozzle here. Now let's get a closer look at the actual holes where the fuel comes out. So a typical fuel injector would have two O-rings, a body, a nozzle, and the electrical connector. So the first O-ring is to prevent the fuel from the fuel rail to leak out, and the second one is to prevent fuel that's being sprayed to leak outwards. The O-rings are there to prevent fuel leaks and also to prevent the strong smell of the fuel. So a closer look on how they sit on the fuel rail. So with the O-ring, the top O-ring, all it does is snugs inside here, like so. And then the fuel rail will always be pressurized with fuel. Most fuel injectors are going to be two wire solenoids, so one wire to feed the ground and one wire to feed the power. So just to give you a basic idea of how it works, so the fuel injector is going to have 12 volts at all time, and the engine computer is the one controlling the ground circuit. So when it's time for the fuel injector to spray fuel, the engine computer, all it has to do is provide the ground and it's going to complete the circuit. Now here's a small demonstration of how the injector is going to work. You're going to hear a clicking, and that's just the injector opening on and off. So I'm going to provide the power and ground for it. And that clicking sound is the armature inside opening and closing. So like I said, the engine computer is going to control the ground for each individual injector, and that's controlling the pulse width of each injector. And the pulse width is the amount of time the injector stays open. So pulse width will vary between 1 and 10 millisecond, and it also varies on the system's fuel pressure. So fuel pressure is already in the fuel injector ready to fire, and once the engine computer gives the command, it's going to open the injector, and depending on the pulse width, it's going to shoot a certain amount of fuel. So a longer pulse width will shoot more fuel, and a shorter pulse width will shoot less fuel, and that's going to depend on engine application. So during engine high speeds or heavy load, the pulse width is always going to be longer, and during idling or cruising, the pulse width is always going to be shorter. So what causes fuel injectors to fail is mostly internal failure. So the coil windings inside or the armature could fail or could break inside. You could also have high resistance, low resistance, and no resistance. So to test that, you would measure ohms, or you would measure resistance with a multimeter and put them across the two terminals here. And it depending on the specs, it's either going to give you ohm readings within spec, either lower than spec or higher than spec, or it's going to be open circuit. And once it's open circuit, then you know the fuel injector is bad. They could also fail by being clogged on the inside, or even the small screen clogged with dirt, and that's going to cause engine misfire, and the engine computer is going to throw a check engine light. So some fix would be just as simple as cleaning off the screen on the injector, or spraying some additives to in your fuel tank to get rid of the dirt inside. And some fix is going to be to replace the whole fuel injector assembly. So for port injection fuel systems, like in this case, the fuel injectors aren't going to be that expensive because they are mounted directly on the intake manifold where they spray fuel before the intake valves, so they don't have to be built as strong. If you have a gasoline direct injection, the fuel injectors are mounted directly on the cylinder head inside the combustion chamber. So the fuel injectors are made to be a lot stronger because they have to withstand a lot more pressure. And replacing one of those are a lot more expensive on a gasoline direct injection system. So there you have it, just a quick crash course on fuel injectors, just to give you a main idea of how it works and how they fail. So give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new. And as always, comment, like, share, and subscribe for more videos like these, and I'll see you guys in the next one.